Hello friends, welcome to Veena's Edigrid. In the previous video, we learnt about the process, the most important process, that is excretion. We also learnt that excretion takes place through a system which is known as the excretory system or the renal system. And we learnt that the excretory system consists of a pair of kidneys, a pair of ureters, a urinary bladder, urethra. Then we learnt that each kidney consists of nearly millions of nephrons which are responsible for the filtration or formation of urine, filtration of blood and then urine formation. Now let us learn about this structure, that is nephron. And this is Veena and you are watching Veena's Edigrid. And I told you in the previous video that if the nephrons are, as long as the nephrons are working well, your kidney is in perfect condition. But as the age goes, or due to any reason, these nephrons start degenerating, and as the nephrons start degenerating, your efficiency of the kidney also starts reducing. So kidneys, in the kidneys, the nephrons play a vital role. That's why they are known as a structural and functional unit of the kidneys. So let's learn about this structure, the important structure, that is nephron. So now, this is the diagram of a nephron. Nephron consists of two parts. That is, one is the Malpighian body and the second part is the renal tubule. Now, what is Malpighian body? Malpighian body it consists of again two parts. That is, you can see this cup-like structure. This cup-like structure is known as the Bowman's capsule. And inside this Bowman's capsule, you can find a network of blood capillaries, and this network of blood capillaries is known as glomerulus. So together, the glomerulus and the Bowman's capsule forms the Malpighian body. So nephron, the first structure of nephron is this Malpighian body. Very important structure, that is the Bowman's capsule and the glomerulus. Now, coming to the next structure, that is renal tubule. What does this renal tubule consist of? Now, renal tubule consists of four parts. That is the PCT, proximal convoluted tubule. Now, what is proximal convoluted tubule? You can see this tube-like structure arising from the Bowman's capsule. This is the proximal convoluted tubule. And why is it convoluted? Because it is curved. This tube is not straight, it is all curved, and so it is got the name convoluted. And proximal because it is just after the Bowman's capsule, this tube starts, so it is known as proximal convoluted tubule. Okay. Now this proximal convoluted tubule leads into the second part, that is U-shaped structure, and this U-shaped structure is known as loop of Henle. It is known as loop of Henle. Now this loop of Henle leads into the third part, which is known as the distal convoluted tubule. I have written in the short form here DCT, distal convoluted tubule. Why is it known as distal convoluted tubule? Again convoluted because it is curved, and distal because it is little bit away from the Bowman's capsule. So it is a distal convoluted tubule. Now this distal convoluted tubule leads into the fourth structure, and this fourth structure is known as the collecting duct. So this is the structure of the nephron. So you have learned that Malpighian body consists of the Bowman's capsule and the glomerulus, and the renal tubule consists of the proximal convoluted tubule. Then you have the loop of Henle, and then you have the distal convoluted tube, and this distal convoluted tube leads into the collecting duct. Now you can see some red capillaries I have drawn around the nephron. Now let us learn what are these capillaries, from where do they come and where do they lead to. So now you can see the renal artery. Renal artery brings blood from the heart to the kidneys for filtering of the waste. So this is the main function of the kidneys, to filter out the waste. So the renal artery from the heart, it brings the blood to the kidneys. When it enters into the kidney, it divides into many small branches, that is small capillaries, and one of the capillary enters into the Bowman's capsule, and there again it divides into very more smaller network of capillaries, and when it leaves the Bowman's capsule, it is known as efferent arteriole when it enters into the Bowman's capsule. Here you have to understand things, students, because in the exam it will be asked which arteriole enters into the Bowman's capsule and which leaves the Bowman's capsule. So the arteriole which enters into the Bowman's capsule is known as afferent arteriole, that is AFFERENT, afferent arteriole. When it leaves the Bowman's capsule, it is known as efferent arteriole, EFFERENT. Here now there is a confusion when it is asked which arteriole enters into the Bowman's capsule, which leaves the Bowman's capsule. You students, you learn at home, and when you go to the exam hall you forget. So you can just take one like a small memory tip. Memory tip I will tell you. Now in the alphabetical order, if you see, A comes first. The alphabet A comes first. So the one which enters is known as afferent arteriole. And in the alphabetical order, if you see, E comes next. So the one which leaves the Bowman's capsule is efferent arteriole. So use this memory technique, and then remember that afferent arteriole enters the Bowman's capsule and efferent arteriole leaves the Bowman's capsule. Now when you see the diameter, if you see the diameter, you can see the afferent arteriole diameter is thicker than the diameter of the efferent arteriole. Why is it so? Why is it so? Now I'll tell you one small example. Now when you juice or even tea or coffee or anything, when you filter it through the funnel, and when you filter and you want more of it to be squeezed out completely, the juice has to be squeezed out, or the tea powder, from the tea powder all the juice has to be squeezed out. What do? You just press it like this. When you press, everything gets squeezed out. So why? When you're pressing, it is creating a pressure, and due to this pressure, whatever juice is left out in the funnel, that also gets squeezed out. So as soon as this afferent arteriole enters into the Bowman's capsule, its diameter reduces, and this reduction of the diameter leads to a pressure. It creates a pressure inside, and due to this pressure, the blood is filtered. All the waste and other materials are filtered from the blood, and this type of filtration is known as ultrafiltration. So that is why once it enters into the glomerulus, the capillaries, they become their diameter reduces in order to increase the pressure, and this will create a force inside, which will due to which the waste will be squeezed out from the blood. Now and then and you can see around the nephron also, you can see all this capillary of tubules, blood capillaries. These blood capillaries are known as peritubular capillaries. These peritubular capillaries, they again join together, and then they join to the renal vein. They join to the main vein, that is renal vein, and this renal vein again carries the blood from the kidneys to the heart. So this is how the blood carries the blood from the heart through the renal artery into the nephron, and from the nephron it enters into the renal vein, and this renal vein carries this filtered blood to the heart again. So this is how the circulation of blood takes place from the heart to the kidneys. Now let us learn about the mechanism of urine formation, how urine is formed. The main function of nephron is to filter the waste from the blood, and the formation of urine, where the waste are removed in the form of urine from our body. So let us learn about this mechanism of formation of urine. So now the first step in the mechanism of urine formation is glomerular filtration. It is known as glomerular filtration. Now what is glomerular filtration? Now when the blood from the heart, through the renal artery, it enters into the glomerulus, the blood gets, due to the pressure created inside the glomerulus, the blood gets filtered, and all the filtered blood enters into this Bowman's capsule. And if you see, the Bowman's capsule is lined by a single cell epithelial cells. These are known as podocytes, squamous epithelial, and these are known as podocytes. And in between these cells there are pores. How this funnel is having pores? The funnel is having pores, and from these pores only this liquid or whatever liquid, the filtrate is squeezed out. Same way, these cells, the podocytes, they are having pores, and through these pores, the blood is filtered. The blood is filtered into the Bowman's capsule. Now, this filtrate is known as primary urine. It is known as primary urine. What does this primary urine contains? It contains everything. It contains everything. It contains glucose, it contains amino acids, it contains all the nitrogenous waste like urea, uric acid and ammonia. Then it contains the sodium chloride, salts, potassium salts, water. Everything is present. So it is equal to blood. This primary urine is equal to blood. Except that the blood has red blood cells and proteins. This primary urine does not have the red blood cells and urine. That is the difference between blood and the primary urine. Imagine if this primary urine is excreted from our body in the same way, what will happen? We have taken so much of pains to take in food, and then the food gets digested, and then amino acids are produced, and the glucose is produced. Imagine if all this glucose, our hard-earned money, you say, no, the hard-earned food what we have earned for our body, no, everything gets removed or discarded from our body. What will happen? So this primary urine, once it enters into the Bowman's capsule, what happens is it enters into the proximal convoluted tubule. When it enters into the proximal convoluted tubule, the second mechanism takes place, takes place, that is tubular reabsorption. Tubular reabsorption. So this primary urine, as I told you, it contains everything. It contains glucose, amino acids, salts, then it contains the vitamin C, potassium, calcium, everything. So now this cannot be excreted out from the body in the same way. So here the second step is tubular reabsorption. In this proximal convoluted tube, these are again reabsorbed into the blood. These peritubular capillaries, they reabsorb all this. What do they reabsorb? They reabsorb the glucose, they reabsorb amino acids, vitamin C, potassium, calcium, sodium chloride, and nearly 75% of the water is also reabsorbed into the blood capillaries by this peritubular capillaries. Now, this urine, after everything is again reabsorbed by the blood, whatever is left out, this urine again comes into this U-shaped structure known as loop of Henle. Here also certain like potassium and a few salts are again reabsorbed. And then now it enters into the last third part of the structure, nephron structure, that is distal convoluted tubule. Here the third mechanism takes place. The third mechanism is tubular secretion. Tubular secretion. So in this what happens is from the peritubular capillaries, again few like the potassium ions, hydrogen ions, sodium ions, chloride ions, they are again secreted from the peritubular capillaries into the distal convoluted tubule, and the wastes are always there. Urea, uric acid, ammonia, creatinine, all these are waste are also there in the liquid, the filtrate part in the distal convoluted tubule. So here in the distal convoluted tubule, the secretion takes place. Peritubular capillaries, again they secrete certain substances, certain things into this distal convoluted tubule. Now this urine from the distal convoluted tubule, it enters finally into the collecting duct. Now this collecting duct, there are many collecting ducts. Millions of nephrons are present in the kidneys. You will find, see, all these are present in the collecting ducts. These are the collecting ducts, and all these collecting ducts together, they join together, and then they filter all the urine into this area known as pelvis. From the pelvis, this urine is one more point I would like to tell you. The fourth mechanism in the collecting duct, that is concentration of the urine takes place. So before it is collected into the pelvis, what happens in the collecting duct is the fourth part of the mechanism, that is concentration of urine takes place. What is concentration of urine? See, in 1 minute, nearly 120 ml of urine is formed, and in 24 hours, nearly 175 liters of urine is formed. Imagine if all the urine that is formed is excreted out of the body, what would happen to our body? So the human beings, they excrete nearly 2 to 3 liters of urine is only excreted out of the body. Why when 175 liters of urine is formed, why only 2 liters of urine is excreted out of the body? This happens in this collecting duct. In the collecting duct, what happens is concentration of your urine takes place, and this concentration of urine takes place by a hormone known as vasopressin. Or it is also known as ADH. ADH is antidiuretic hormone, and this hormone, from where it is secreted? It is secreted from the pituitary gland. This pituitary gland is present, a small pea-like structure present in our head area. So from here, this pituitary gland, it secretes this hormone vasopressin, or it is also known as antidiuretic hormone. What is the function of this hormone? It will concentrate the urine. That means it will not allow all the water that is there in the urine to be passed out from the body. So it concentrates the urine. Imagine if this vasopressin is not secreted in our body, what would happen? The person will lose, every day he will lose nearly 15 liters of water from urine from his body, and this will lead to a condition known as diabetes insipidus. This is known as diabetes insipidus. This is a condition known as diabetes insipidus, where the person will lose nearly 15 liters of urine from his body, because due to the lack of this hormone known as vasopressin. So this vasopressin hormone plays a very important role in concentration of the urine. So we lose only 1 to 2 liters of 2 liters of urine per day. We don't lose more or much of water from our body. So this concentration of urine also takes place in the collecting duct. Now, as I told you, the collecting ducts, they are present in the medulla region, and all these collecting ducts, they together they collect the urine and then pour it into this structure known as pelvis. From the pelvis, the urine is passed out into the ureter, then into the urinary bladder, and then through the urethra it passes out of the body. When the urinary bladder is filled with nearly 300 to 800 ml is its capacity. So once it is filled, and after the 300 ml, people feel the urge of urine, and then after that there are, if you see the urinary bladder, it has got two sphincters. So when it is filled for the 300, 400, this sphincter opens, and then when it is completely filled, then the person feels the urge, and the second sphincter also opens, and then he feels the urge of urination. So this is how urine is formed by the nephrons. So you have learned that how nephrons play a very, very vital role in filtration of the blood, removing the waste products from the blood, and then formation of urine. And this is very, very important. And imagine if the nephrons starts degenerating, they stop functioning, then what would happen? Our kidneys also, they will not be able to excrete the waste from our body, and the waste will get accumulated in our body, which will become toxin, and afterwards it may lead to the death of a person. So it is very, very important that the person takes care of his kidneys by following proper diet and following proper lifestyle. Okay, so hope you all have understood the mechanism, the structure of nephron, and the mechanism of urine formation. So I shall come back to you with our next video, and keep watching and keep learning. Hope you all will learn a lot from the videos. Thank you, friends, and if you like the video, please subscribe, please like, and then please place your comments in the comment box. Thank you, friends.